Hey guys, it's Teddy and I got a little tip for you again today. I want to talk about pressure. What is pressure? Dynamic, static pressure, what's the difference? Here today covered in hair. I've been grooming out these two little halflinger ponies that we got here. These two are relatively new to us and our hope is to put them together and harness and make a team out of them. They're older. They've got careers as riding horses behind them and still real useful for that, but we're hoping to put them into harness here and hopefully they'll make a good team. I just wanted to maybe make some clarifications for folks that may struggle with the concept of pressure. How much, how little, and how to use pressure. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the idea of static and dynamic pressure. And we know we can put pressure on our horses all over their bodies in different places to get movement out of them. But what's the difference between static pressure and dynamic pressure? Well, static pressure is a steady pressure. So when I put my hand on his head here just like this, or we'll just do his shoulder. When I put my hand on his shoulder and just press, just real lightly, that is a static, steady pressure. Okay. When I put a dynamic pressure on him, it's a pulsing pressure. It has some motion to it. And both of these pressures are meaningful to the horse. Our goal is to always move towards being able to use light, static pressure. Okay. And then what we'll use to get there is we'll use a dynamic pressure. Now I should also clarify that at the end of any pressure there should always be a release, right? And how skillful you are with timing the release is really critical in horsemanship. Okay, if you can time your releases so that they occur at exactly the right moment, you're going to be able to get a lot of things across to a horse. They'll understand cognitively what you want a lot faster if your releases are timed well. So, so that timing is really probably one of the things that people struggle with a lot is they don't get the timing just right. But then also they don't use the correct type of pressure situation. So with these horses, I noticed they're a little bit dull to pressure. They pack kids around a lot, and so that tends to cause them to get dull or get heavy because kids don't time their releases properly, and maybe there isn't a release. The release is what trains the horse too, not the pressure. The pressure is what they're trying to get away from. They're trying to seek that comfort or that release. So a little exercise that I do, and I'll just do it with this one to start, is just swinging their hindquarters. So what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to put dynamic pressure right on her side. And I know that other horse just in her way, so maybe I'll come over and work with him first. He may get out of my way on his own, but I'm just going to touch his side here, and I'm just with my fingertip just going to press and release, press and release, press, release, press, release. Good. And every time he steps, he gets a little release. Now, if he weren't to step over, I'm gonna step him actually closer to the rail here. So when I press here, if he doesn't step, I'm gonna just use that dynamic pressure. So you can see how my hand's moving here, and it's dynamic pressure. And I'm gonna just sit here and wait with that pressure on him. We're just going to hold here and let him think about it. Now, when I'm holding, I have to use enough pressure, and there it was, and you saw my response was the release. Most folks are pretty familiar with that little process, that little way of doing things. But the key is sticking with pressure long enough for them to make a decision. So I can actually get him to step a little closer here. So I'm going to stick my hand here, and I'm going to start with a static, and I went right to dynamic there. That was my mistake. But I'm going to start with an ask. And that's a static pressure, a steady pressure. That didn't work, so we go to dynamic, and I'm going to wait. How long I wait is totally dependent on him. He has to make a decision. He could decide to run into me, in which case the pressure stays there, or he could decide to move away from me, in which case the pressure goes away. But I'm going to just hang in here and make sure that this pressure is enough that he can't just tolerate it, okay? Horses that are really dull will tolerate pressure all day. You can see him swishing his tail. He's kind of, those are indicators to me that he's not real okay with the pressure, but he doesn't maybe know quite what to do. So we'll just hang in here and wait for it. Again, dynamic pressure. I'm going to add a little bit of voice here, and that's just to reaffirm what I'm doing. So there we go. Now, it was not a step in the right direction, but it was a step, okay? Something happened. And so if I can get him to learn that every time he at least takes a step, then that there's a release, and then later he'll start to learn that it has to be a step in a specific direction. Okay, now I'm going to push him back this way, which he wants to do naturally, and I may move out of camera here, but I'm going to touch, hold, dynamic pressure, and release. Touch, dynamic pressure, release. Touch, dynamic pressure, release. Okay, it does not take long at all for them to start understanding how those pressures work, what they're for, and that they should move off of them. And one of the things about when they learn that they can move off of pressure, it builds a lot of security for the horse. In other words, they know how to get pressure away from them. They know how to get their releases, or I should say earn their releases. They understand that. If I move, this guy will leave me alone. And that provides a ton of security. So if you got a horse that's maybe spooky or bothered by you being around them, if they learn to move off of pressure, pretty soon they'll start to develop security with you because they know how to handle that pressure when it occurs. All right, so that's today's little tip. Hope it makes sense and hope it's helpful for you. And get out there and enjoy the day and enjoy some riding. We'll catch you later.